Ever since Doom promoted the simple yet attractive gameplay style of simply gunning down large groups of enemies, many game companies since then took advantage of that gameplay method and it ended up turning into a colossal cluster of generic FPS games that utterly pulverized the quality of the genre to nothing more than fine powder. Take a look at modern day FPS games, or even go back to 2008 and look at the generic FPS titles from then. As a result, there's always a diamond in the rough waiting to be found. And this particular diamond needs to be crafted, cut, and marketed perfectly, especially if it bears many similarities to the other gems it's trying to compete against. This particular game, Left 4 Dead, was released in 2008. This zombie shooter was developed by Valve, whose track record is that of which to behold, in large part thanks to Gabe Newell, with the Steam application, the Half-Life games, the Counter-Strike games, the Portal games, the TF games, and any Valve franchise you can think of off the top of your head. The original Left 4 Dead was a pretty basic game. It had no story to be spoken of, it had no character traits that affected the gameplay, no character backstories, an upgrade system, or any special weapons. Yet the main reason why Left 4 Dead is one of the quintessential titles you must have with Steam is because of the gameplay itself. I'd like to refer to Left 4 Dead's style of gameplay as simple yet complicated. The main formula going for this game is simplicity in basic, fundamental, and structural gameplay mechanics, while there's a complexity in the game design, characters, zombies, weapons, melee in particular, and environments. In Left 4 Dead, the only thing that changed on a drastic level was the where, but not the what. While some might argue it's complicit for a video game to remain generic in an otherwise diverse universe, and while in most cases I might agree, Call of Duty. Left 4 Dead did something with the complexity of the small details I just mentioned. When the where changes, so do the zombies. If you take a good look at the PC installation files for the original Left 4 Dead, or even the PC files for Left 4 Dead 2, you'll be astonished to find over 400 .back and .mp3 files for each zombie, and you'll find hundreds upon hundreds of character designs for them as well. The importance of this is something I'll touch on later in the review, but as it stands right now, this made the original have much replay value, with addicting gameplay and an excellent online experience that allowed you to battle with friends and lent you its hand when you fought random players. Or you could have just played with bots, but that's not the point. Had I made a review for the original Left 4 Dead when it came out, I probably would have given it a 5 out of 5 for being one of the best zombie shooters Valve's ever created. If we skip the 2009, Valve released their incredibly hyped sequel called Left 4 Dead 2, in lieu of the empty promise that the original would receive support for at least a few more years. And while those promises were null and void, the casual gamer, at first glance, will probably perceive Left 4 Dead 2 as an overpriced expansion for the original Left 4 Dead, as it has many of the same game modes, functionalities, and even the original maps and characters are back from the original Left 4 Dead. While that may have pissed off anyone that bought the original, they won't regret paying for Left 4 Dead 2 because even if the game was an expansion, it's a pretty good expansion at that. It especially retains value to the Left 4 Dead virgins who are experiencing the game for the first time, who didn't need to buy the first one. The game itself, as previously mentioned, contained many of the same modes as its predecessor. You have the campaign mode, which is essentially the game mode that grants you access to the meat of the game. The Left 4 Dead games were composed of many different campaigns that were really just random stage levels. Each venue contains something different to its environment, and objectives are unequity. You will be paired in an online match with your friends or some random people, and you complete various objectives. Mutation mode, the second mode in the menu, is without a shadow of a doubt the stupidest and most useless game mode featured in Left 4 Dead 2. This mode is composed of all the same campaigns from the aptly named campaign mode, only here you're playing by yourself. There would be nothing wrong with this if the context of the challenge was a byproduct of the difficulty options, but the challenge here is artificially inflated by the game mode itself because it's completely and utterly broken. Left 4 Dead 2 is a game built around co-op, and here it simply doesn't work because specific enemy types, like jockeys or tanks, require 2 players to combat, and it simply won't work by itself. This, again, wouldn't be a problem if there was at least a way around it. I can't say I play a lot of games on the easy difficulty level, but even on easy you've been choked by a smoker or pummeled by a tank, and with no way around it, the game mode is broken. That is, however, if you choose to play the default mutation. In the option under Start Game, you can browse maps and other campaigns created by Valve or different Steam users. The campaign options show up based on the number of players you decide to have in the game. Say you choose a 4-player campaign made by a Steam user called Kingfrip. I know that's a stupid name, but just go with it. It will download and you can find an online match. The Last Man on Earth function is completely broken, but Mutation is a good in-game search tool to find different creations online. It is, however, useless to the detriment of the campaign mode, which already searches out available games and workshop content. So, again, completely and utterly useless. It's not bad, but it is unnecessary. Realism mode is kind of like hardcore from the Call of Duty games. The supplies found on the ground and the walls or in hidden locations no longer have an outline. This includes your team. This causes you to stay focused as it dramatically raises the suspense and tension as well as completely changing the game on a fundamental level. This also means that as ammo becomes harder and harder to spot, you can only kill zombies with headshots. This causes you to focus carefully on what you're doing, how you're managing primary and secondary weapons, health, and ammunition. The only thing I can really complain about in this game mode is that if they really wanted to give this game mode a realistic feel, and I put that in air quotes, they would have A, given a limit on pistol ammo to create an appreciation for ammunition, and B, given you a way to escape from a boss tier zombie without the help of another player. Other than that, I would recommend this game mode for those who like survival and for those who want a good challenge. I dare you to play Realism mode on Expert difficulty. Versus mode is a competitive multiplayer mode involving a set of players as the survivors and a set of players as zombies. This allows for excellent strategy and some good old-fashioned trolling, especially if you're playing as a boomer. The maps and sets are developed differently just for this game mode, and the servers are abundant. Realism Versus is versus mode with all of the realistic qualities I just discussed. And in this game mode, the challenge is turned into complete sadness, and the deaths, in a really messed up sadistic way, are hilarious. Survival mode is exactly what it sounds like. It's that copy and pasted survival mode from games like Killing Floor and Call of Duty, except it isn't generic because of the signature Left 4 Dead gameplay. There are a few intricate factors here that tie in specifically with the mode itself. The challenge in the context of both difficulty and teamwork are affected by the sheering amount of zombies that swarm you from all directions. They're all simply too much to take by yourself. Even if maps like the pool from one of the campaigns has an escape route of some type, they're too overwhelming. This takes skill as well as reliable people to play with, and it is frustrating. But for every time I felt the emotion of anger, I had so much fun rage quitting at bad matches with horrible players. Scavenge mode is the most interesting game mode of the myriad, and just listen to find out why. When you begin the game, there will be two sets of players, survivors and infected. The survivors are working to scavenge gas cans under the pressure of a 1-minute 30-second timer, with 20 seconds added as a reward for finding the gas can. The infected's job is to stop them at all costs, and whether the survivors win or they're incapacitated, the next round the cards are switched and you're suddenly fighting for the opposite teams. Finally, to wrap it up, the game will end as soon as it's impossible for another team to achieve victory. For example, in a 3-round game, the winning team is the victor at 2 rounds. Single player mode is campaign mode with bots. What a shock. Single player mode is, unfortunately, what you're going to be playing most if you don't have at least another friend who owns this game, because the online mode as of 2013 is completely barren with few people playing. The most players I've seen in a game were 12 in scavenger mode. With every offline mode, except Last Man Standing, you get the option to play with bots. The first time I played alone with bots, I began to get a Resident Evil 5 feeling at the bottom of my stomach. That's bad, by the way. But these pains were alleviated at the sight of good AI. The AI in this game is excellent, but sometimes the AI controlling the secondary characters begins to fodder on expert difficulty. The issue is minor, and it can be overlooked. The overall aspect of teamwork is strongly emphasized, as this is what the game was built around. For example, if you lose damage, you move slower. When your movement decreases in speed, so does everyone else's. It really promotes a sense of working together because you will die by yourself. The inventory you keep in Left 4 Dead 2 is nothing special in and of itself. You have your primary and secondary weapons. You have a grenade slot, which can carry Molotov, sticky bombs, or boomer bile, a substance that attracts the horde. You also keep what I'd like to refer to as the gadget slot 1, which can carry health packs, incendiary ammo, or defibrillators, and gadget slot 2, which holds health pills or adrenaline shots. The interesting thing about your gadget slot 2 is the health pills and adrenaline fill your health bar with artificial health that slowly disappears over time. It's meant to give you the illusion of feeling strong, which is a smart choice in this respect. One part of Left 4 Dead 1's gameplay that made its way to Left 4 Dead 2 is its excellent melee combat. The melee combat's greatness is comprised of a few things. Number 1, the diversity in the campaign environments. Number 2, the separate skin and voice files for each zombie, giving a feeling that the world was alive before the apocalypse. And number 3, melee weapons themselves. Every zombie coming against you is unique except for the hunters, tanks, spitters, smokers, boomers, and witches. Just skip back if you need me to repeat that. When you attack a zombie head-on with a melee weapon, there are a few things that happen in the first second of impact. The melee weapon makes a clattering sound as the zombie squeals and the blood drapes your visor while one of the zombie's limbs breaks apart. These few things make the combat really enjoyable. Aside from that, the guns are pretty good too. You have the typical modern war assault rifles, shotguns, grenade launchers, and a hunting rifle, aptly named the hunting rifle. The guns aren't special, but they feel and work beautifully against a horde of zombies. You have to crouch in order to narrow the crosshairs. Finding laser sights for your weapons can alleviate this, but I should note that pistols have unlimited ammo. After you play realism for a while, you can get really good with the pistol. The gunplay in the game is satisfying, but nowhere near as satisfying as slashing a zombie's stomach open with a machete or beating it with a frying pan. Left 4 Dead 2 is one of the best zombies games in the market. I strongly suggest you get this game for PC because of the modding community supplying new content every day. If you're unfortunate enough to pick this game for the Xbox 360, lols, then you still have plenty of single-player and co-op hours ahead of you with excellent gameplay, stylistic visuals, excellent online experiences, and a zombie here and there. This game also contains every single Left 4 Dead 1 campaign, which benefits the consumer. This game receives a 5 out of 5, the same score I would have given the first Left 4 Dead had I reviewed it. It's one of the best made zombies games on the market, but above all, it's the most fun.